Hello, Carmen.
Hello, Anna.
How are you?
Well, this is a good question, and these days I think I'm actually really good. Thank you for asking. How are you in Hong Kong?
I'm good. I'm good. We are lucky that it's not so restricted here with the coronavirus, so I'm feeling good as well. Just
It's
confined
getting
in
easier
one
for you.
place. Yeah.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's good.
So thank you very much for being on Beyond the Dance Floor and agreeing to talk to me. It's very nice to see you here. I really look forward to our conversation.
And so do I. And first of all, I wanted to apologize to you because I know that you have had this project going on for some time, and I know that we had spoken about it before. But believe it or not, I was rather, sort of, it's difficult to understand how these things go. And anyway, I'm really pleased that I'm finally here with you, and I'm really pleased that I did decide to go online with you, and I'm very honored that you chose me. So thank you for that.
No problem. I know you are busy, and I'm really happy that you're here now. So let's get on with it. So tell me where you are and how you are dealing with the coronavirus situation, and how do you feel about the whole thing?
So I'm in London in my apartment, and I've been not traveling since I came back from the Asian tour, which was end of February. I was going to the Asian tour, I was going to Japan, and of course, as you know, all the events got cancelled, and I still had some trips booked around it, but then in the end, I decided after a week in Japan that it's time to go home, because it all looked like it's gonna, hell broke loose sort of in Asia with Korea outbreaking all this. So I have been at home since the 28th of February. And I am sort of more or less at home since the 16th of March, not really going out at all, just for necessities and things like this. I do my once a day walk, which I enjoy a lot. I'm very lucky. I live in Wimbledon Village, where there is a beautiful park, and actually the route to the village is really pretty. So I'm sort of trying to get out a lot more and trying to enjoy my daily walk, if you like. And but other than that, I try to avoid, because it's sort of difficult to understand what you should or should not do. So I'm more or less alone.
Okay. So you are being a good coronavirus quarantine patient, let's say like this. You're following the
I love that. A patient. I've been a patient. I like it.
Yeah,
yes, I think also because I actually, I don't know if it's for others difficult, and of course I know everybody is different, but for the last 25 years, I've been traveling a lot, and out of choice. It's nothing wrong with it. I loved it, but it's been like in between and doing this and doing that, and now suddenly, out of no choice, you're at home, and I really enjoy it. And I've had so many projects, and usually when I used to be at home, I used to just on my days off, or after teaching, you go on a TV and watch some movie or whatever. But I have really struggled to actually finish a movie, because usually I put it on late at night and I fall asleep, so I have to rewatch it the next day because I can't remember what was on. And I've been really busy, so I don't know whether it's because I'm just a good coronavirus patient follower, or whether I actually enjoy this and I'm able to do so many things which I usually have put off in the past, and I'm now able to do.
Oh, that's great. So have you done any online teaching? And if you have, what's your experience with it? And do you think it has a future in our business, perhaps?
I do online teaching. I also have done online group classes, and I must say I really enjoy it. I really love it, because I do miss dancing. I love to dance. I mean, I clearly don't dance myself anymore, but the interaction with the couples, and you're passionate about what you do, so you're missing that outlet. And I really enjoy the online teaching. At first, I was a little bit skeptical, because of course I'm not a technical wizard by no means. But every week I'm getting better. I have a ring light and I have an iPad stand, and I'm lucky actually, because in my entrance or in my apartment where I am, I have sort of a little 3x3 square of a parquet floor where I can actually swing around a bit, and that's sort of what I'm using as my studio type of thing. And it actually really works incredibly well, considering that they are somewhere in America or in Hong Kong or wherever they might be. So it is quite surprising how it actually works. And I don't think online classes will ever replace the physical class you have, the one-to-one, because I think there is something about you connecting in a different way, you know, sort of the feeling and the touch as well. And when you talk about, you know, many aspects of dancing, you cannot really maybe convey over an online platform like this. But having said that, I have many areas you can, like in all the technical aspects, you know, it's quite easy to actually see. And often the couples would send me a video before and I would look at it and then I would sort of revert back to them to that. So I did find it really actually a very beneficial addition to the lessons. In terms of will it stay, I think, see, this is what I think. When I grew up, when I was an amateur, we had weekly group classes. We had weekly lessons with our local teachers. And so this whole concept about that, it has now developed over the last 25 years that we come sort of, I call it in bulk. So you come for a period of time and you have the bulk of the lesson during that period of time. And I don't think this will change because the people will still come before and it's expensive to travel. And so of course this will stay. But also, likewise, I think with this bulk traveling, in between, people often don't have information. How much can you really absorb in 2 weeks, and if you don't write it down and all of that? So I do think there is definitely a space for it. And I definitely feel, I mean, couples have asked me already beyond that, do you think we could continue this? Because I feel that would be sort of, let's say in January, you come from the UK, and then maybe I see them in April again. So you have February, March, where you could do sort of online classes in between. And that, I think, so it's an addition to, not a replacement of, but I do think it will be staying in some form for sure.
I think it's also perfect in terms of follow-up, because you may think you understood, you got a lot of information, but to actually put it in practice and for the teacher to say, yes, this is what I'm looking for, or no, or whatever, it's really helpful. And you don't actually need necessarily an hour and a half session to do that. You can do it rather...
That's right.
Yeah, rather compressed.
You know what you say there, it's really true. I had this single lady from China who's a teacher for children, and she contacted me. I know I used to teach her when she was a professional competitor, and I said, absolutely, let's do it. And it was actually quite incredible. So she has regular weekly lessons, 45 minutes, as you say. And it's sort of good because I said, well, let's go through the homework, what we had done last week type of thing. And then I check, oh no, you know, this step, you have to take care of this and that. So you actually progress quicker in a way, because you have that checkup. I think that's a very good point.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go back a few years ago, and I would like to ask you how you started dancing, because it was quite late, right? And how did you come to dancing, and how did it happen, basically, that you progressed with your career, and what is your experience with starting dancing quite late?
So I started dancing, or I enrolled in the local amateur dance club. In Germany, everything is built on amateur basis. There's dance clubs. And I started with 17. And I didn't know dancing existed in this form at all. I was just oblivious to the fact that dancing existed like that. And even though this was a very famous German dance club in my hometown, Pforzheim, but I didn't know of it. I've never seen anything. And I watched TV, and suddenly this TV program came on about dancing. It was a competition on TV. And I was like, oh my God, I love that. You know, it was sort of, it was just amazing. You know, this whole idea, I mean, of course, the dresses and the glitter, but also the music and the interaction, the two people together. So I was really excited and funny. So my mother is very religious. I grew up Catholic. Actually, it's funny. My dad is an atheist and my mother is very religious. So there you go. It's a bit of a mix. My mom is German. My dad is Croatian. So anyway, I used to have to go every Sunday to church, because that was, my mother was like, you must go. You don't do anything else. You don't have to do anything else, but Sunday mass you have to go. So in this sort of group, there was always there was a girl who then said, oh, should we girls sort of go into a sort of a jazz dance group from the church? I said, oh yeah, that sounds nice. So that I was about 15 and a half, I remember. And then there were 2 guys in this group too, and we didn't do much. We just jumped around and it was fun. Anyway, so I started to see this TV program at 17. And then this girl, she said, oh, I really would like to go to dancing and learn proper dancing. And we have this club in Pforzheim, in my hometown. I said, oh, wow, you know about this? I didn't know about this. So she wanted to go, but she didn't want to go with her brother. And her brother was one of the guys in it too. So she said, would you come with me? Because I need a partner for my brother.
Mhm.
So I said, yeah, absolutely. So that's how I started actually. And I just loved it. I will never forget it. It was just absolutely brilliant. And yeah. So then I had I had 9 partners in the first year. So yes, so I wasn't very compatible to the dance, to that fact, so that my mother said to me, I'm not sure you're very good at a partner
Couple dancing.
couple things, maybe you should do something where you don't rely on anyone. And I was like, no, but I love it, you don't understand, Mom. She goes, yeah, but it's really heartbreaking. So anyway, then I had a year with no partner. And so because of course then you get a reputation, I had so many and then no partner. So I remember I used to go almost every day. Out of 7 days, I would say 5 days a week, I used to go practice by myself. I did a group class of Latin and a group class of ballroom. Mm-hmm. And other than that, I was doing my Roomba walks up and down and my cha-cha logs, and I was doing my spins for a year. And then one of my teachers, he was a basic teacher, he sort of took pity on me. He sort of, this girl, she needs a partner. And so he found me his friend. He was quite a bit older, he's about 12 years older. And he did a favor to my teacher, said, would you please dance with her? And actually he was a ballroom dancer. So I had to do 10 dance, which was not for me. And so we started to dance. And actually my very first dance competition was in amateur ballroom, not the Latin.
Okay.
So yeah, and also my teachers, they all thought, yeah, you sort of really, you're quite talented, but you're definitely too old. You will never make it. So they never pushed it till this teacher said, well, let's give her a break. She seems to be really dedicated. And yeah, so that was the start of my dancing career, so to say.
It's very interesting. Do you think nowadays it is possible to start dancing at quite a late age? Like, someone that just finds it, I was not aware of it. Would you say that it's possible still to be successful? Okay, perhaps not the world champion, but relatively successful. Is it still a possibility, or do you think we've moved on?
Do you know what? My motto has always been nothing is impossible and no is not an answer. So for sure it's possible. I think it depends on the person finding themselves in this situation. Because had I trusted my teachers at the time, I would have never continued really, because I would have had to stop because I didn't believe in me or whatever. But I felt such an urge, and I felt such a, it found me and I needed to do it. So I think it pushed me forward and wanted to do it. And I think there was a moment, where either you do it or you don't. And I think that's with everything in life. And I'm not saying, I think one thing I tell you from an experience, I always felt throughout my career that I never had enough time, because although I retired with 33, I retired in May. When I was 33, I turned 34 in August that year. So my dance career as a whole is very, very short. Mm-hmm. Other people who start at 10 or at 5, of course, they have a lot more experience. So for me, it was always a race. So that, I think, is difficult. And I think it's the dedication of the person doing it. But definitely, I think everything is possible. And a little bit, maybe even, I don't know how you say it, like, I think so many things have changed. I mean, we used to be really young to retire. I mean, Peter Maxwell retired at 24, I think. Yeah. Now people are over 40, It's like we used to say, oh, we can't dance past 40 type of thing, So everything is changed. So who says? I don't believe that, anything is possible. I think if you want it, you'll make it. It doesn't matter which age.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've had a number of partners who were very, let's say, great partners. Yeah, you had great partnerships. Did you feel it was difficult to adjust to them, to the partners, and change from one partnership to another one? Or did you feel it was quite natural? What was your experience with this?
Yeah, I think actually it was quite natural for me, quite easy to do, because I feel, I think one of the things, maybe from the outside it doesn't look like it, because I come across quite maybe square, I mean German in a way, sort of direct and all this, but I'm actually quite adaptable to the person I'm working with, or to the dance partner I'm working with. So, and yet I'm able, I think, to not lose myself, sort of not maybe just do it their way, if you like. But I felt it was quite natural to me. I didn't think about it. I didn't plan it. I didn't structure it. Oh, I must do this, or I should be doing this. Sort of. I think I'm 1,000% committed to when I want to do something. If I'm believe in it, I go for it, and I'm jumping in it, and I'm so into what I'm doing that I think it becomes just the organic development. And I didn't think of it at all that I had to do something. Of course, there is minor things like, a lead is different, from one partner to another partner. So of course, but I think this is normal. This is not different with anybody else. But that is not sort of terms in my personality or in my way how I developed.
It's
and yet, sorry, also yet I think every partner brought a different side of me out, which I quite enjoyed. And I think I was quite amazed because everybody, sort of, I said I feed off quite a lot, and suddenly I can go this way, and I'm quite open, and I can do that. So I enjoyed that. It was for me an absolute pleasure and a great ride. Absolutely.
Because of course all your partners were very strong personalities, and they had very clearly their own way and their own vision, and so I'm wondering if it's lucky that you feel that you can remain yourself but still adapt to the person that you are working with. But at the same time, like you just mentioned, you also had very different styles in a way, different looks, different messages that you were bringing with every partnership. Did you feel that at the time? Or
I think it's like with anything, isn't it? When you improve something, let's say you improve your Roomba walk, I mean, of course, if you look back to the start of your career, yes, you can feel a huge improvement. But if you go sort of week by week or year by year, the improvements become very little. You feel that people might see it. And that's the same, I think, in terms of the development of your style, if you like. I know one thing for sure. I think maturing or becoming older and also developing more and gaining more knowledge, that has how can I say, that has a development on its own without you trying to change your style. What I would have done in my 30s, I wouldn't have done in my early 20s, and vice versa. I wouldn't do anymore what I would have done in my 20s, because you sort of evolve and you change and you develop. And so it is, I think it's an overall progress in general. I think it's the person you deal with, it's the knowledge you gain, and it's your own maturity to it. The one thing I think, of course, the visions are strong, and let's say, yes, we must do this, or this is the look we want. Yes, but what was very important for me always is that it became me. Yeah. So I couldn't just wear a look. So I wasn't necessarily the doll they could dress up, and I would then function and do what they want to do. It took me an awful long time to get ready for a con.
Yeah, okay.
Because it's sort of, let's say one of them would design the outfit, or like, for example, my teachers, maybe they had an idea and want to do something. Not always, it's also progress together. So that's okay, let's do that. But then that dress and that how I became in that dress alive was a process for me. So for example, I never had really my hair done or my makeup. I had it once done by a professional. At that time also we didn't have the services, if you like. But I had it done and I felt terrible. It felt like it wasn't me. It looked beautiful. I mean, the hair was better than ever, because I can't do elaborate things like what professionals can do. But it was part of me. I had to, do my makeup. I had to do my hair. I had to feel me and organic. And I think that was one thing I realized, was I always took it onto me. And I think that helped me a lot to remain myself, although I'm very open for anything. But that was one of the key points where I feel that your own personality will remain and develop and stay strong if you then take charge of yourself, so to say.
Mm.
Yeah.
So as the female part of the partnership, what do you feel that you brought into each partnership? Perhaps it was different things as well, but what do you feel was your role, your part in each successful or not successful, doesn't matter, partnership that you had?
Yeah. That's always a good question, isn't it? Because typically or stereotypically in dancing, it's always what a man is the one who will make all the decisions, all of it. And to be honest with you, I think I certainly am not a woman who, I definitely have my own opinion. And let me tell you, in all the partnerships I had, there were huge fights. I'm also not scared of a good fight because I feel it's passionate. You know, I'm not seeking a fight. I don't want to hurt the other person. And it's not about, and it's not really putting them down, although, of course, you know, when you're so close together, it often can get personal and not right. But in general, I think it's about the maturity. I'm passionate to believe this is how it is, and the other person might think differently. Mm-hmm. So I feel a little bit, this is a very important part. And that came even, let's say, for example, when I was an amateur and then turned pro, and I danced with Alan, who was already a finalist. In some ways, I was just like, well, I'm not going to do well. I don't think so. And I believe that. And I think it infuriated him. He's like, who are you? I was like, well, I'm Carmen. I want to do it my way, type of thing, sort of. So I think it's also, again, down to the personality. In terms of, I feel absolutely we're equal in our partnerships. I think I bring 100% to the partnership as much as the man does. Yeah. I absolutely enjoy being led. I have absolutely no problem. I think I'm a modern woman. I'm independent. I can do most things by myself, but I do enjoy that interaction between lead and follow, or man and woman, or question and answer, or a conversation. To me, lead and follow is a conversation. And to me, okay, the Latin steps or structure or the culture has developed in our international style dancing, that the basics are described, that the man is the leader. I think that's okay. I like that. I love that about it. And to me, it's not demeaning to my position as a female dancer to the partnership, because I always think without me, he can't lead. Yeah. You understand? So it's sort of, it's the chicken or the egg. It's sort of, where do we start? It's like, yes, of course, physically the man is always stronger than you. So physically he could overrule you. But if we talk about dancing, if I don't want to go, I don't go. So it is sort of I feel a huge sense of equality. So I feel I bring as much to the table as my partner does. And I think that's what makes great partnerships. I think it is that conversation, that forming all your talents and all your knowledges and everything together and bringing this absolute vast package, and not build around one or the other person only.
Yeah. So you had a career, a very successful career with different partners as well, and you were successful with all of them. But I'm sure, as we all do, you also had a number of disappointments, or things which didn't go your way or right at that time. How did you deal with those setbacks, and is there any strategy that you used overall?
So, I'm actually a really positive person in general. I don't see setbacks or a bad result as I will not get to my goal at the end. And so far, and I will tell you about my setbacks, but so far all of those setbacks or bad results were certainly an important and vital ingredient of then how I changed and what I did to get out of it, and the course of, I think, has changed a lot. So there were definitely positive impacts on my dance career and my life. So I'm thankful for them. Of course, they are never nice at that moment in time. Nobody, wants to lose a comp or not make the next round or anything like this. But certainly, I don't think I would have achieved what I have achieved, and I would have been the dancer I became, or I would have been the woman I am now, had I not had the failures as well. And I think they form you, and I think that's an important part, for sure. So, and usually I remember, Brian and I, when we got together, we danced the first Blackpool, we became third, we danced the international, and we became, I think, I can't remember, third or second now. And then that Worlds we won, and we won for about a year. And then in 2001, we then danced Blackpool. And I remember to this day, we danced Blackpool. And for that year and a half where we were starting up and sort of straight away won more or less after half a year, we were running around the world, doing shows, doing teaching, because suddenly you are in high demand, isn't it? You occupy the spot, and suddenly, the shows were going in. So, one day we are there, and the next day we are there. And then we danced Blackpool that year, and I came off the final, and I turned around to Brian and I said, I don't think we won that. And all the people around us were like, no, 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 you were good. And then I said, well, don't get me wrong. I said, I know I'm better than the rest. So the ego is still there. But I said, no, but we didn't do what we can do. So it was not as much as maybe you lose against other competitors, but you also know you don't dance to your own ability. And that day, and we lost, and even if it was lost by 1 mark, it doesn't matter, we lost. And for sure, both Brian are very alike in that sense. We were the first ones to congratulate. This I had to do because I don't think there's nothing worse than sour losers. I can't tell you what a pet hate of mine that is when you sit as an audience or you've been judging and you sit down and then the prize presentation and they go like,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, I mean, seriously? It's like, you know, it is such a negative and such a, for me, an absolute low level of grading yourself, because you have to show the world that you are so disappointed. I mean, everybody understands it must be very disappointing, but I absolutely admire and respect people who can be gracious whilst losing. And that was an important part. So we were the first ones to go to congratulate. And the next thing we did, and of course you walk off the floor and everybody is long faced and nobody wants to talk to you. It's like, people, relax. Let's go back and let's have a party. Anyway, we always have a party, win or lose. So we had a party and we had a great party. And sort of the people were first, are you sure? Yeah, of course, let's have a party. It's like, what? It's like, we're still alive, it's still okay. So we had a party and we had a great party. And then the next day, we woke up and we sat down and said, okay, what are the things we need to change? So we took it as an opportunity, as a, what can we do? What is wrong? Why did it happen like this? What was wrong? You know, on paper, everything should be fine. And we decided then and there that we would become dancers only again. And we were meant to go to Japan. We had like 6 weeks booked for shows and teaching. And it was just the beginning of June. And we were meant to go in July, something like that. And we just canceled. And we said, we have to stay at home. We want to stay in London. We want to, you know, do ballet classes. We want to start doing other, you know, form of dances. We want to have time to practice, time to develop. We want to exercise. So of course, financially, this was not a good move, because it took us a good year or 2 years to recover in Asia or in Japan, because, you know, the trust was lost. You know, we suddenly, you know, decided not to come. But it was the best thing we've done for our dancing, because had we not done that, I'm not sure we would have stayed for that many years, or our dancing would have progressed so much. And our work ethic in terms of accepting jobs and flying around the world after this changed dramatically. So we wouldn't really accept a lot of work outside Europe before big events here in England, because the traveling, going across time zones or going there would just take it out. It's not just one day of the show. It's like, you know, by the time you get there and back, it's a week. So we were doing actually, we were doing work, like the summer period where we worked and we practiced, of course, or then only practice where very little, minimal work just around the area type of thing. So that taught us a great thing. And I'm a big believer in it. I think nothing happens, everything happens for a reason. And you have to look at it and see it, and you can learn a lot from it.
Can you tell me, what do you think? I think we've spoken to you about this, and you were always talking about the people, the team behind you. Yeah, that you had the team. Do you feel it is important for the dancers today, like a little bit like we touched in the beginning, that it has changed a little bit? We also used to dance in the dance clubs where you had the main teacher. You had someone who saw you all the time, and then you had other teachers perhaps for outside guest lessons. But now it's all a little bit more, especially on higher level, it's a little bit more chaotic, if you wish. Do you still believe it is very important to have a team behind you, or perhaps one single coach or someone that you completely trust? Or do you think you can make it on your own as well?
I think it's very difficult to globalize anything, because I think in the end it's the two of you, and I think you need to find a formula for the two of you. And I think Brian and I had found a formula for ourselves, and for sure it always comes from experience, and I can only give my experience on what worked for me and how I see it. For me, for sure, I think our team was absolutely vital to our success. Yes, we were the outside product. Yes, we would go and then win the world championship. But there was a few selective people who we trusted implicitly. And I think that's a very important part. I mean, we never had a lot of teachers when we danced, Brian and I, but each teacher fulfilled, or each person in the team fulfilled a different part, which was important to for the whole. So, for example, I mean, my teacher always used to say this: if you have a heart problem, you're not going to go to the brain surgeon. You're going to go to the heart specialist. And I think that's a really smart explanation. And that was it. You know, we really wanted to what we felt this person would give us the best out of this section, what we needed, and we would trust that person and to give that to us. And from observation of looking how people do it nowadays, and I'm not judging it in a way of if it works for you, great, but I've yet to see that it really ultimately completely works, because I feel a little bit it dilutes the product. Because I feel the more opinions you ask, let's say you ask 10 people, you get 10 different opinions. So now you as the person have to figure it out how you're going to go forward from here, because 10 people most likely will not say the same thing. So I think there is a huge challenge in that sort, and if somebody can do it, that's great. It wouldn't have worked for me, that's for sure. And absolutely, I believe hugely in a team which you build around you and you have 100% trust in.
So you are a part of this, how shall we call it, golden generation, you know, this moment when, no, but you know,
golden girls, you mean the golden girls.
It was a great time when you had a great final, you had so many personalities on the floor, and still people say, oh, it was different those days, it was great, you know, the final was so interesting. It's not the same now. Do you feel, whether it's true or not, do you feel this way, or do you have a completely different view on this, or do you feel it was something special?
I think, of course, everybody would say it about their own generation. I think it was the best generation. It was special. I think there was something different though in the air. I feel, you know, dancing has changed a lot over the years. I mean, in some ways, that final at the time, we all worked with Walter Laird. Mm-hmm. So all our base came from Walter Laird. So actually, it was so, the knowledge was universal. It was not somebody got it as a secret or whatever. But what was so great about it, that everybody took it on and developed it differently. Yeah. And I think, I definitely think that the limitation of the amount of teachers you have is a huge part in that too. That's why I don't believe in this mass production type of thing. But I feel you can see that even the same teacher could have so many different personalities come out of it. And I think that was very, very unique in a way. I feel that was very special at the time. Plus also, I think social media plays a huge part in it. I don't feel, we are sort of the last generation. I think you can get videos of us and DVDs, I know that, but it's not as much as you can do now. I mean, now you go live there, you do this, and we are live. Yeah. Or talking now to each other, and you sit in Hong Kong and I'm here. We didn't have that. So our own imagination and our own inspiration and our own creativity was not saturated and was spurred on all the time, because we had to, you know, it's like, well, that's the Roomba walk. How are you going to do that? Wow, you know, what can we do? It was inspiration. Now you watch it and it's saturated and you don't think anymore for you. So you just don't like, but you don't go past that. So I do feel there was this moment in time which was special. And I think it was this complexity that dancing had moved on from before and became more body orientated and more sort of almost more authentic. It came out of the 70s and 80s being a little bit less sort of disco style. So it got more back to the authenticity, and then sort of this really down to the groundwork. And yet, you know, no other influences except of your own research, you know, going to a theater or having maybe an external lesson about something else. I think that was the contributing factors of creating such an era. And I think that's why we have such strong personalities out of that era. Yeah. So I can see that, and I'm very grateful to have been in this area. I love dancing, and I love dancing at the time.
because of course you also inspired each other and motivated each other, and you know, because someone else was creating something, you also felt like you wanted to do your thing, I guess. So it was, yeah, you all, I'm sure, spurred each other on as well.
Yeah, there used to be practices in assembly where suddenly like 4 or 5 people out of the final are there. And it's like, wow, look at that. Nice new step. Wow, what is going on? It's like, wow, she has improved. I got to do well. So sort of there was this, in a good way though. It wasn't like, it was more like I wish them to be better because that made me better. You understand what I mean? I wasn't happy if they were, how did they dance? Or they look shit. Of course, it makes you happy. You might get ahead. But it's like, do I really want to win on other people not being at their best? No, I'd like to win with everybody being at their best. And me too, So I think this was a very inspiring moment. I think these practices, they were fantastic.
I can imagine. What do you think in today's dancing? Do you think it is important to keep the authenticity? What can we do to keep the authenticity so that both in Latin and in ballroom, if we speak about it, what can we do in order to achieve that? Or is that not perhaps the goal? Is it not necessary because it will evolve into something else, and maybe that's a natural process? And in that sense, do you feel as a judge, when you are working at the competition, do you feel any responsibility towards that? Because of course, when you mark something, of course it's something that you like or prefer, but do you think about it from the point of view, is that the direction where you would like to see the dancing go in?
I think there's a lot of questions. I hope I remember all of them, so you have to keep me on track.
Yeah.
Oh, will I remember it all? And let me start with the last one you said. Yeah. I think, I'm actually quite open in general. So when I judge, I don't judge what I feel. I judge the couples there in this moment in time doing the cha-cha, and I compare their cha-cha to each other. Of course, everybody has their likings and dislikings. But to me, in my mind, and I talk to myself every time I take the floor as a judge, not as a dancer. But when I go and accept the judging job, and that day when I walk onto get my pad and I have to judge now, I always talk to myself that I have to be honest to what I see and take all favors out. Am I a human? Yes, I am. I'm sure I can't be completely like shutting off all of this. And often I'm standing in that final and I'm judging, and I judge quite late. Although I might have, you see, and you might have made your decision if you like, or you sort of have an idea, but I judge quite late because I often, I'm thinking and I'm looking, and it's not an easy thing. I don't want to mark someone really last or it's not a personal thing, but I'm looking at certain criteria, I feel it. There's not so much what I think the future should look like, because I don't know what the future will look like, because that's up to the dancer to present it to me. But I have certain very clear criteria, which I think I feel very passionate about, and are my judging criteria. Number one is music. I cannot overstep that. If somebody is out of time, it doesn't matter how beautifully it is. It's just for me something I cannot accept for myself. So that would be for me a very strong judging point. I think you're talking about the authenticity in dancing. I think Latin and ballroom is a very unique dance form and art form. These two styles is really the only dance form where there is real lead and follow, where we really occupy ourselves in lead and follow. And I feel very, very passionate about that. That's one of my that is the favorite thing I love about Latin American dancing, is partnering. And I feel this is part of our authenticity. And this hasn't changed whether I dance in the 1920s or I will dance in 2030, I don't know. But I think that, of course, style has changed, and taste and influences and pop culture and everything will move forward. But there are certain key elements which I think are timeless. And we must keep them, we must uphold them and keep them alive. So, for example, music, that's why I do think, for example, Walter Laird used to always say, you should practice to good music. Because good music trains you to listen in between the metronomic music, if you like. So you start hearing this body action, what is in the music. Yeah. So if you do cha-cha, you can start hearing the little rhythm. So you start moving your body differently. But if you look at competitions nowadays, you have this sort of, I don't know, I call it club music. I'm sure you call it differently, but sort of this simple written music where sort of this one beat structure. And of course, the dancers, they don't know any better. So is it their fault? No, it's their fault. I mean, the teachers don't introduce it. But so these things are key elements to keep our dance form alive. So I think practicing to good music, studying the music, you will suddenly hear why the body action is there, because it's part of that upbringing. As I said to you before, partnering, I think that's a huge, a big ingredient in our dancing. So if we do synchronized dancing, yeah, if we do, if we talk about just rehearse, I think we have to rehearse. I understand the concept of, and I did it too, about, being able, Candyman, 6 minutes jive. I did that in my days too. So I do know the benefit of that. But I certainly wouldn't think that this is it. This is an aspect of it, to be able to sustain 5 rounds, 2 minutes each dance, so that you can do it to the best performance. But I do think that, so the partnering skills, the body actions, often I think intricate steps nowadays have replaced sort of body actions, because we will become faster with our feet or timing. But yet, where is the body rhythm? Where is the body tick? Where is sort of the body action? That is also a huge ingredient in Latin American dancing. Yeah. I always think you and of course you acquire other skills. I think it's great if you learn other influences from the outside. But I think our art form is called Latin American dancing, and I'm a huge protector of that word. So, but coming back to the other question, when I'm judging, I am judging what I see. So if nobody does Latin, well, then I have to judge it. If somebody does Latin but it's badly, and the other one, I don't know how to say. It's like you don't judge to your ideals. You judge to the people who are, or I judge to the people who are in front of me. And of course, my priorities, what are my judging criteria? They are very strong. Mm-hmm. But I'm certainly observing and judging and giving the marks down to what I see in that moment in time. So coming back to the first question, absolutely. I think authenticity, the lean back or the look back, I think is always there. That does by no means mean I think people should dance like 20 years ago or 40 years ago or 2 years ago or 1 year ago. I think everything should evolve, absolutely. But I think there's many things in our art form which is timeless. And these ingredients have to stay present and alive. Otherwise, we just fail to do Latin American dancing.
Yeah. So touching a little bit again on this, you're a member or part of the base committee. Yes. Can you tell me a little bit about what it is and what your goal is and what it is that you're doing and trying to achieve in the committee between yourselves?
I think it's almost a little bit what I was talking now just about. The base committee was formed, to observe what is currently going on in the competitions. So, for example, we would meet after every major event here in England, after the UK, after Blackburn, after the international, and we would sort of see what is the trend, what is where is it going? What do we see has changed? And that often, I mean, all the discussions always come really back to, of course, there is some superficial things like the tan is bad, or the dress is too open, or often the ballroom ladies think, oh, those shoe straps. So of course we have that aspect of grooming or being appropriate in the circumstance you are in. This is of course a big part, and etiquette. That's a big part too. But we always, our core and our base is the basic, if you like. It's coming back to our core values of our art form and dance form. And that's why we always discuss, how is it going? What is, are the feet overstretched? Are they actually using the actions? What is going wrong? Why is it going wrong? What has come in? Why people don't start concentrating on it? So this is really the core of it all. And last year we came up with the idea to bring back basic competitions. Because many, many years ago, it was part of the world titles to actually have to compete in basic competitions. And I know that the couples didn't like it because it was sort of every round, I think, was a different dance. You had to do basics. So it was past my time. So maybe it's difficult to see because I didn't compete in it. But till the day Brian and I retired, we practiced every day the basics. So for example, there would be at least 1 or 2 jives where it only would be basic jive. So it wasn't such a big deal to me, you understand? It wasn't like something I wouldn't be doing anyways.
Yeah.
But with this coming out again, which is okay, maybe it shouldn't have been in this format, if you like. Maybe the format was wrong. So we came with the idea, so it was a good thing in essence, and how could we maybe bring it back in another form? And that's why when we then did the base competition, where the professionals did the rumba and the amateurs did the samba, and it was really, really good. It was just sort of that the couples had to go back and involve themselves and study a little bit about what is actually written, what is the base,
Yeah.
what is in there. It doesn't mean that you all have to do it just like that, no, but it's good to go back a little bit and find out this. So that's the key really to why we have formed base. And of course, I love hearing and talking to my other professionals and understand and see different viewpoints. I think that's hugely inspiring. I love that.
Okay. What advice would you give to younger dancers, and especially maybe girls, young women of today, that you wish you kind of knew yourself, or that from your experience you think it's important for them to know and understand?
Oh, it's a good question. That's a very deep question.
I know.
I know. For sure, don't give yourself up. I think it's remain true to yourself, remain your own voice. I think this is really important, because I feel it's just sort of often the girls, they feel very intimidated, and maybe the boys too, I don't know, but in general I've seen more, maybe also cultural, from the countries they come in. It's inbred in their culture, and I think it's really important that the girls, they don't switch off their brains, really, that they realize, they are 100% part of this partnership, and it doesn't rely on what the man wants to think. Doesn't mean, like, for example, it doesn't mean if the Brian says, I want to do that, I'm going to think about it. I go, I think it's a great idea. Yes, let's do that. But think about it, I think use your brain, use your intellect. Don't just follow blindly. And that's the same with teachers and lessons.
Yeah.
I would never be impolite in a lesson myself. I would never say, well, I disagree, so I wouldn't do that. But I would take it home and I think, how does it work? And it's like, I have to think about that for a second, and of course you trust. And then, if you have a different relationship with your teacher, you can say, I need to ask again about this because I didn't understand it. But I certainly would question it and would think about it and understand how to put that in my body and what was it meant. And if I didn't get it, I would ask back. So I think this is for sure an important part in dancing and in the process in progressing as a dancer. Otherwise, I feel I'm hugely offended with teachers telling the girls to be sexy. I can't tell you how offended I am about that. Yes, you also feel that, yeah. I especially I often judge solo girls or
Yes.
Not often, but I do judge, and then I often judge sort of juvenile or youth girls, and then they stand there and they go, "Oh, sex is like, excuse me, you are 11, you shouldn't know anything about that. Put your pop socks on," and that's okay. And I find that hugely offensive, actually, to me. And I don't understand how there is not a sort of that our governing bodies are not sort of putting a little bit of protection in place and say, enough is enough. There is sort of a curriculum, the syllabus is like this, and somehow it's tasteless. And that I'm very protective of. I don't feel a young child should be taught how to be sexy. I don't think a woman of 30 should be told how to be sexy. No. I would hate if somebody would tell me now, can you be a bit more sexy? I'm like, excuse me? I think this is a huge sort of this using the sex element of it. I think if you are a sexual woman in a particular form, that's great. I think that's your person. That's you give that. But I don't think we should be all, over the same spectrum and say, well, that's sexy and we should all aim for that. I find it hugely offensive. So I would definitely tell them, don't worry about it. Try to develop yourself, and you will find your own sensuality and style to that.
When it's time to do that.
Absolutely.
Actually, it's a huge problem for me as well, because especially now when there are all these online competitions, it's basically a solo dancing. It can be boys and girls. Of course, they are not in a position to dance with a partner at the moment because the partner is probably somewhere else at home. And they are asked to do this 1-minute video of themselves. And they are free to do more or less what they want. There is no syllabus. And, Rashid was judging an under 13 category just a few days ago, and he showed me some videos, and it's just, it's these girls who clearly think or are told that it's a good idea to be sexy and to make some sort of a story and to dress in a certain way, and it's just, I think it's inappropriate, and I think there has to be a conversation about this, because
absolutely, and there has to be a censor of some sort, because I think what is, you don't know who is watching this. You don't know what I'm often thinking that if exactly,
as a man watching it, and you see this girl, and you are, you have to continue watching it because you have to give an evaluation of this.
Yes,
but it's just it feels strange to watch it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, and I think this whole online thing exploded on us, kind of thing. So nobody is really can catch up with the wave we are all riding on it. So, but I feel it had been coming for years already. It's not something new. It just happens now that it's on film as well. But you go to all the countries, you see the juveniles being taught that, and funny enough, it's the girls, not the boys. The boys are sort of left alone, and they just have to make sure their arms are out, which is another pet of mine, like structured and all of this. But the girls are taught really in a way I cannot support. And at one point I was in one competition in America about 4 years ago, and I had to judge the juveniles. And I swear to God, I was so furious. At one point I was but I was going to throw the judging pad down and walk off the floor. That furious I was. And then I had to contain myself, because I thought, it's not the children's fault. No. It's not their fault. They don't know any better. But the teachers and the parents, it's like, and they were doing jive, and they looked like the elephant herd had arrived in the jive. And I was like, Jesus Christ, what are they doing? And it was so painful to see that anything goes really, and with no real, we come back to the authenticity and fundamentals and basic, and you can see that if you don't implement it, these dancers, it will be very difficult later on to change that and make them sound dancers, and the impacts on the body of a young girl or a young boy, and when they dance and their growth and all of this. And they have, I know people have stopped dancing very early on, and because they have pain in the hip. We have dancers nowadays, who have to stop dancing, who have operations, and they're like not even 30 yet. Touch wood, I've danced not for many years, but I've danced long years, and part of the nowadays a bit of backache. I have no really serious problems, and I put it down also to technique, and of course body condition, many other things. But it's how you trained, and as I said, this is such a big area which has to be really tackled in some way or form.
Okay, so to round it all up, I would like to know, what is your most precious memory from your dancing career? If there is one thing that you will always remember and always cherish in your memories.
Of course, there is so many. It's the first of everything is always a great memory, isn't it? The first time, as an amateur making the semi-final, the first time as an amateur making the final, then, being a professional and then making the final. And the first time winning, winning Blackpool, the first time winning the Worlds. I think two events sort of burned in my memory or have made a huge impact. And it was the first Worlds I won in Japan. Because I think Brian and Peter, they had sort of, Brian is very mindy, let's say. He's very brainy and he's very structured. I'm not that I am not, but I've sort of I didn't go into the comp thinking, oh, we would win, you know. I was not like, yeah, let's do that. And I was practicing my Roomba walk and I was doing this. And I think he had sort of a goal more, not that I didn't have a goal, but he was sort of more oriented to that. Yes, tragedy, exactly. And I think it was good he didn't tell me, because probably I would have screwed it up. And I did actually on the day. I think I did screw it up with him quite a bit. I think he was ready to kill me that day. But anyway, I remember this. It was such a competition and such a wonderful experience. And then standing there, and they in Japan, they make it really dramatic, you know. You were standing there all on the floor, and then suddenly there's this drum roll, and you don't know. And then they said, you know, it was Brian Watson and Carmen. I was like, oh, because I didn't see it coming in a way, you know. It was such a wonderful experience. It was so exciting and beautiful. And my parents were there, and Brian's mom was there, and his niece was there. And it was such a, for me, it was surprising to have done this, because although it's your goal and your wish, but the odds were not right for you. We were not in line maybe to do it, or we hadn't just danced long together. I hadn't won before, and the one memory which is I can't say is sad and a happy memory is the retirement. To this day I can't watch it. I cannot. I watched it once. It was actually funny. I watched it on passing it, always at the superstars. There sort of used to be this area where people would run their videos, and it was the year after, not that August, but the year after we did our last superstars then. And I walked past it, and there was suddenly this moment where I saw Brian and I, you know, doing this last Roomba, and I just saw that for 1 minute. I had to walk away, and I have never seen it since, because this this was such a difficult event for me to dance, a competition to dance for me, because we knew we were retiring, and we had told, of course, our families and our close teachers, and to go into the event, you know, knowing that it's quite a difficult thing to do. You know, every round goes down, you have to stay focused. And I remember Lorraine coming in with, you know, she came in and she was already crying. We haven't even danced a step yet. You know, the first round, she's going, did you receive the flowers? I said, no, we didn't. Well, then she was crying more because we hadn't received the flowers. And it was like, we have to sort of hold it together, and you're sort of really holding it together and making sure you get through it. And then before the final, we had written invitation cards to friends saying that we will retire today, and would they please join the party after. You know, we have always a good party. And then you can see suddenly the people were looking at us, you know, when you stand at the corner ready to go, and they were looking, oh, and I was like, yes. Then trying to ignore that and go in and try to compete and dance. And then I remember when the jive was done, I collapsed. I just couldn't hold it. I was crying and sobbing, and I know now I get emotional. And Brian was also crying and sobbing. And it's such a, you know, it's such a fantastic memory. And yeah. So all of it, winning, losing, this was a great experience, and retiring. And I just am really blessed. I'm so thankful that I found dancing has found me. And it didn't matter so late, and I didn't have all the years other people have the pleasure to be able to dance, but I have so many memories and so much pleasure and experiences. And I'm so thankful that I was able to live this life. I still live. I haven't died yet, but to live this dance life. Yeah, hugely, every memory. Yeah. But these are my key ones. Sorry, I talk a lot, right? No, you didn't know that.
You always do, but it's always good. It's beautiful. Yeah, that's really nice to hear as well, and to live through it with you, because you of course tell it with such, you know, life in it. So you become a part of the experience, kind of.
Yes.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you, and thank you for sharing. I'm sure I appreciate it, and viewers will appreciate it. So thank you very much, and stay.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Anna, and also thank you for being so patient and waiting till I was ready to do this. And I just want to say that you do a great thing, and I think it's a great thing. You were talking about the female point of view, and I think that's a really great thing that you bring that up. And your interviews are great. And yes, stay safe too, and love to everybody around the world. And that's
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.